Arvind, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi guys. Welcome. Good afternoon to you all. This is Cyberonics cybersecurity community. We here aim to provide and share cybersecurity knowledge. In this regard, we have with us today Mr. Abishek Manikandaraja. He is currently pursuing his B.Tech in cybersecurity from Edinburgh Napier University in the UK, and he has completed his 1 year internship with the UK government. And further, I request Abhishek to get started with this topic, that is digital forensics. Abhishek, over to you.
Hello, guys. First, I would like to thank Cyberonics for giving me this opportunity to talk. And today's seminar is going to be based on digital forensics, a crash course style seminar, basically. So I hope you guys can see my screen. Is my screen visible to you all?
Yeah, yes, Abhishek.
Okay, awesome. Right. So just let's get started. So today's introduction to digital forensics session. So we'll be talking about what is digital forensics, different methods and tools used for disk forensics and memory forensics, and the importance of metadata, of course. I'll also be including practical elements in this seminar so that you guys can have a hands-on understanding of what's going on. And also, we'll be doing a little bit of peek at the careers and research part of this subject in cybersecurity. And about myself, so I'm a last year cybersecurity student here at the university in Scotland. I was ex blue teamer in the UK government. My hobbies include playing CTFs and teaching people, and I like to talk about anything about security, basically. So these are my social media handles. So if you want to get in touch, you can use one of these. And that's just about myself. So let's dive into the subject. So, what exactly is digital forensics? So, it's basically one branch of cybersecurity that deals with stuff like post-incident processes and evidence collection or analysis. So, what I mean by that is it's something that you do after occurrence of an incident. So, maybe after a company is breached, or a laptop is hacked, or anything goes wrong. So, anything you do after the breach scenario is to deal with digital forensics. And the one of the most commonly seen applications of digital forensics is that in legal purpose, like whenever you will have to sort of prove someone has stolen some piece of information or has done something digitally wrong, you have to perform and go through the entire forensics process to prove that they have done wrong. And a lot of new laws are showing up in this side of the industry where you can present digital evidence and it is accepted in the court as a legal evidence. And it's also very well connected to the blue team activity. So when it comes to cybersecurity, is either red team or blue team, right? So red team is about offense and attacks, and blue team is about defense and stopping the attackers and detecting their activity. So digital forensics has to do with the blue side of things, because anything you do in cybersecurity on the blue side is mostly forensic based. So you detect stuff only after it happens, not before it happens, most of the time. So it has multiple specializations such as network forensics, host-based forensics, memory forensics, and etc. Forensics is something that can be applied to a wide range of devices. For example, you could also be talking about IoT forensics, or even a small Fitbit watch that you're wearing that might have forensic data inside it, or information that is of forensic value. So this is digital forensics for you at a basic level, on a theoretical level. So let's now discuss about the sort of approach we can take towards the subject, right? So understanding the layers and not getting consumed by copious amounts of data is the first point. The reason for that is whenever you perform a forensic investigation, you're going to have tons and tons of data that you need to sift through. The reason for that is, again, the investigation does not just involve the files in your computer. So for example, if you were to forensically investigate my computer, you wouldn't just go and browse through my files and folders and see what I have done. It's more like you make an exact copy of my hard drive using imager tools, and then you analyze that image separately. You won't touch my computer at any cost. So that's kind of the rule we follow in forensics. We don't tamper with the evidence at all, right? So that's the first point. And the second one is being able to hierarchically understand the various components in an operating system or firmware. And why is this exactly important? So the reason why we need to do that is operating system is sort of the key for anything that plays within the hardware realm. So if you take a laptop or a PC, it runs on an operating system, maybe Linux, Windows, or Mac. If you take IoT devices, they all have their own firmware. So that's kind of their operating system. So all of these are like rules on how the device organizes data and sends them and receives them and so on and so forth. So it's really important to understand that before you can start the forensic process, because if you don't know about the software that's running on the hardware, it's very hard to sort of understand what kind of evidence you can get from those devices. So the capability to logically correlate different events from various sources, pardon my spelling mistake there, uh, to derive conclusions. So that's again the key part, because you might have a scenario where you will have to investigate multiple devices, maybe the convict's laptop, his cell phone, and his smartwatch, and take three different events from all three devices and sort of chain them together to prove that he has done something at some point in time, if that makes sense. So it's more like Sherlock Holmes, right? So the last one, on the fourth one, is trying to relate the technical concepts applied in digital forensics to other realms of cybersecurity. So why do we say that? Because digital forensics is something that is performed post breach. So from an attacker's point of view, you would want to erase as much as evidence as possible, because you don't want to be traced back, right? So, for example, a common thing that red teamers do after exploiting a machine would be to clear the logs in that machine so that the blue teamers can't find out what exactly happened there. So, this is one of the reason why you need to understand the subject from the perspective of other teams in cybersecurity or other fields in cybersecurity. Understanding data integrity and hashing methods. So this is something that we'll be doing in the last section, and it's the most important one, because comparing data is a very commonly used theme in digital forensics. You will want to compare two pieces of data and see how similar they are, the degrees of comparison. So that's going to be done as well. So I hope you all know about what hashing is, or the basics of hashing is, so that it be useful for you in the last section. Okay, so now moving on, let's talk about the different stages of digital forensics. So the first stage of the digital forensics process is to get the data or get the evidence. So let's take a scenario where you storm into someone's house and they're, of course, using a laptop. So you want to forensically investigate them. So that guy is a convict. So what you do is you take image of the entire laptop. So for instance, maybe let's say he's running a hard disk with 1 terabyte, and he has just used maybe like 500 GB in it. So the image would still be 1 terabyte, because even the empty pieces, the zeros in the disk would also be recorded as a part of the digital evidence to prove that there is no other information that was found on his hard disk. Sorry. So so basically, you make an exact copy of the storage device he's using, and then you would investigate it further. And the next part would be to identify, of course, identify the pieces of information that can help you with proving that he has done a very specific crime. And the next one is to evaluate in a legal context. So legal context is like, you can't go and talk digital forensics to judges. So you will have to get the exact pieces of information from the evidence you have and present that to the court. And that's what you will be expected to do. And it's pretty tiring, because I've done that once, and it's not an easy thing to do. You need to identify the right pieces of information, chain them together, and sort of present that as a legal evidence. And the last one, of course, is admission as evidence, as I told you. Right. So these are the processes that we follow in digital forensics. And one of the most important thing that you need to know in the acquisition part is that sometimes you will have to, uh, you know, not sometimes you will be taking a copy of the victims, no, not the victims, the convict's hard drive twice. Because once you take the copy of his hard drive, you won't be working on the exact copy. You will make another copy of it, just so that you have a spare one for backup. So even if you tamper the copy by mistake, it won't affect the actual investigation process, and you can start over again, if that makes sense. So you'll usually be having multiple copies of the same evidence, and each one will be sent to different forensic investigators for analysis. Okay, so these are all just theory and talk. So we are going to get actually started with something now. So let's talk about disk forensics, right? So disk forensics is, anyone have any questions? Sorry, I was hearing someone on mute. No, right. So disk forensics is something that will be commonly seen in the industry because everyone uses a computer these days, right? And especially criminals too. So it's one of the most important subset or for digital forensics investigation. So the first thing that you need to understand when you do disk forensic is that you need to understand what a file system is, right? So file system is a way how files and directories are sort of organized, and there are different file systems meant for different operating systems. For example, if you take NTFS, you can use the NTFS with the operating systems such as Windows. And XFAT, BTRFS, and FAT32 are primarily for Linux-based or Unix-based operating systems. And the next one is always about data and their offsets. So, how do you say that a given disk dump is of a certain size and contains a certain number of files and so on and so forth? So that can be done by identifying a specific offset and finding their value. So basically, you will be having a hex dump, and you can tell the information about the disk based on different offsets, different positions in the hex dump, and decoding them back into ASCII. For example, you would be able to find the size of the hard drive by looking at a very specific offset in the hex dump, and that should give you the information about the size of the hard drive. And the next one, understanding of the Windows operating system and related concepts, and why exactly we need to do that. The reason for that is, Windows is a very, very commonly used operating system, arguably the most commonly used operating system. So it's important to understand Windows. And if you're performing investigation on a Linux machine, then it would, of course, be Linux. But we are not talking about that now because most of the cases it's going to be Windows. And learning autopsy and commonly used ingestion modules. Autopsy is arguably the best tools available in the market for digital forensic purposes. It is capable of doing a lot of things, which we'll see just now in a moment. It can analyze the disk for everything. It gives you a very nice view of what is happening with the disk and gives you all the information you might need to prove that someone has done something. So let's get started. Um, So here we have an autopsy lab at TryHackMe. It's a very nice platform to practice cybersecurity, right? So I have an account here, and I've just clicked on start machine. So that's going to take a while. And let's just get back to discussing about disk forensics. Oops. Right. So so this is just the basics of disk forensics. These are the things you'd be expected to deal with, and you should know about the different file structures in operating systems as well. For example, in Linux, it's more like slash boot slash root slash home, and you have all these different directories and things set up. And in Windows operating system, you have a completely different structure like program files, users, then Windows and all that stuff. So it's understanding of operating system that is the key to performing forensic investigations. So this is just a glimpse of what you can do with disk forensics. And once our machine's ready, I will show you a hands-on example of how you can perform a basic forensic investigation using a tool like Autopsy, right? So we have the IP here. Let me just give me a second. Let me just connect my VPN. Administrator, let me in 123, a very bad password, by the way. And here we go. So this is Autopsy right over here. Oops.
Guys, meanwhile the lab gets loaded, I just wanted to add something. TryHackMe is it's a great cybersecurity platform for all stages of cybersecurity engineers. Even if you're a beginner or you already have some knowledge, I recommend you all to check out it once. And it has great contents for whatever subdomain of the cybersecurity you want to learn. So I just wanted to add something, and yeah, I think the lab is loaded now.
Right. Yeah, that's absolutely true. I would agree to that. I've done a lot of modules in TryHackMe. They sort of help you to skill up in cybersecurity. You can just get a free account for yourself and start doing the labs over there. There's a lot of nice stuff, by the way. So,
Yeah, it is
yeah.
recommended.
So it's taking some time for us to load the uh, autopsy. So after, because it's quite heavy, it needs to process tons of data, so it takes its time. And oops, stop working, or yeah, there we go. So we're gonna open a case here. So we just double click that. Oh, I'm sorry about that. The system's a bit laggy for some reason. It's not supposed to be though.
Yeah, maybe we should continue with the theory content or later come back to this lab, or how are you
Yeah.
planning to continue?
I would just restart the machine. Meanwhile, I go for the next topic. That would be fine.
Yeah, sure.
So the next one is going to be memory forensics. This is again a very special case in digital forensics investigation. The reason why I call it special is because when you go and convict someone accidentally, hopefully if they had their PC running, right? If it's running and not shut down or in any other state, you you have to perform another form of investigation called memory forensics, which is basically taking a copy of your RAM or volatile memory, as you call it, or RAM stands for random access memory. So you take a copy of the RAM and analyze what was going on, the processes that were running, the system services that were running, the registry keys. Sometimes you even get the hashes for the target machine or the username and password that can be used in other devices if possible. So you get a wealth of information if you're able to perform memory forensics on the target. So if the acquisition is done on a live system, it paves the way to memory forensics. You need to understand the operating system internals, such as command lines, processes, threads, and all these concepts to make complete use of memory forensics, because all these tell you what the system was doing at that point in time, and it can describe a lot. So how exactly do we perform memory forensics? We use a tool called volatility to do that. I'll also be showing you that tool just in a while, once we are done with the disk forensics part. So volatility again is a really interesting open source tool. It has a lot of modules that can help you to sort of extract information from the memory dump, right? So yeah, let's go and read the RAM, of course. So before we jump on to memory forensics, I'm just trying to connect. There we go. Hopefully, it's faster this time. Okay, that seems promising. Let's click on open case, and oops, yeah, so desktop case files and tryhawkmeta.aut. So what you basically do is you use a tool called FTK Imager. So that tool takes a copy of your entire hard disk, or any form of storage media. It could be a pen drive or an SSD or a hard drive, or anything. And and give me a second, guys. Yeah. So once you do that, you get access to something called the EO1. You create something called the EO1, EO2, and EO3. So these are just basically the raw dump of the entire hard disk. Okay, they don't have a very specific file extension. So the reason for that is, like, we don't want it to be processed in any other way. So we just take a byte by byte copy of the entire hard drive, every byte by byte without any difference to it, and we analyze that information. So the first law of digital forensics is that you don't want to lose any piece of data, and conserve and preserve all the information that we can collect. So that's sort of a thumb rule that we follow with digital forensics. So as you can see, we have one huge image with such a big size. I don't know how much. And of course, the time zone is from New York, so you can sort of say where that guy is possibly located. And we have a lot of interesting stuff over here. So this tab is the key part in using Autopsy, because it sort of extracts all the content and gives it to you in a simple way. So let's just go to try hack me and see the types of questions they ask here, right? So what is the MD5 hash of the E01 image? So why are we bothered about the MD5 hash of E01 image? It's because if someone tampers with the image, the hash is going to change, and that will, of course, change the whole course of investigation. So we don't want that to happen, and we will make sure that the hash remains consistent throughout all parts of the investigation, and we don't tamper with the evidence at all. So that's sort of something that we try to follow in digital forensics, and everyone, of course, should. So how do you find the hash of this? You just click that. You just play with this interface a bit, and it's pretty intuitive, right? That you don't need to take a full full-fledged course or something, or you can if you want to. But again, you can just find the hash if you go to file metadata. So you have the MD5 and SHA-1 hashes, and SHA-256 not calculated, and you can see all other information here. So the operating system is Win201X. We don't know which one. So let's just go ahead and perform further investigation on this hard disk. So what is the computer account name? So how do we figure that out? we just go here. We look for different stuff here. As you can see, you have EXIF metadata, you have suspected encryption, you have extension mismatch, information. Just click on that and just says desktop, something something, and this is the name of the computer or the target system that you are investigating, right? So this is it. So that's the operating system information solved, and you have a lot of other interesting questions. Next one is list all the user accounts in alphabetical order. So you want to find the user accounts. Any person who has some understanding of Windows will know that the all user accounts are situated in the users directory or located in the users directory. So if I go here and I look at the users directory, we can see the list of users over here, and you can extract all the information that you need, right? So this is how it works. Or if you are someone who would like to do it the old school way, you just go to operating system user account, and it also lists all the security accounts manager entries for each and every separate user and their information such as date created, date access, count, password settings, and their paths, respective paths. So this is kind of a holistic view of what different users have to do in the system. So you'll be manually entering each one of those over here, which we're not going to do just now. And who was the last user to log into the computer? What was the IP address of the computer? What is the MAC address of the computer? You have a lot of other interesting questions asked. So you can probably sort the last user who logged in based on the date accessed, and then just sort it based on that. Should give you the view. But you can see the last one is Siva Priya, I guess, maybe, we don't know. uh we'll just give it a try and see if we are right. Oh yeah, we are. Never mind. So that's cool. So this is how you go on with the investigation. You find different pieces of information. You see the USB devices attached. So there was a VirtualBox machine here, and there was a hardware device called Root Hub 30. So yeah, you can see there are different devices attached, and you have EXIF metadata. So this is again something that's more interesting to look at, because if you were to convict someone, you would want to have more evidence to prove that they have done something. So maybe they have shot a lot of pirated content using their Canon EOS. Maybe they have, and you're trying to figure out if they have used the same camera. Then you could probably look at the EXIF information about each and every image they have shot and compare that with the camera that they actually own and see if they match. So the different ways to go about it, right? Even though this information can be tampered, finding them could also mean that they have actually done the thing. So it depends on how sophisticated the criminal you're targeting is. Smart people, they remove all the EXIF data. So for instance, if you were to upload this image out here to your Google or Discord, it's most likely going to strip all the EXIF information in the image for security purposes, of course. So you don't want to be doxxed by someone, right? So that's the reason. And you have web history. So if the person uses browser frequently, you can see the list of stuff that they search for, which is pretty awesome. They have an Instagram account. They have browsed so many Instagram accounts. Okay, seems like an interesting person. And they have downloaded Mimikatz. Okay, that's even more interesting. Mimikatz is a red team tool, and they are interested in Satyabama College for some reason. And we can see a lot of other interesting information over here. So this is basically what autopsy has to offer us. It can do a ton of stuff which cannot be contained within the session. So yeah, each of these pieces of information you get is related to an ingestion module. So for EXIF, you have a module that scans for EXIF data, and for encryption suspected, there's again some sort of logic that runs to detect encrypted stuff inside the file system. And you have extension mismatch. This is when you have extension mismatch. So if you basically save an image as a txt file, it would be detected over here. And you have a set of installed programs. This could be super useful if you find some suspicious programs that might tell that the convict has done something really really interesting. and you have a lot of stuff. So each of the stuff that you can see here is associated with the ignition module in autopsy. So that's probably it for the disk forensics part of this session. So let's just terminate this one and go on to volatility. So what is volatility? So volatility is like a super famous open source tool for performing forensics on a live memory dump, as I said before. So we also discussed about the importance of doing such analysis. The reason behind that is, you might get more information that you can correlate with disk forensics, so you can combine disk forensics and RAM forensics to prove one point in your investigation. The more sources you have to prove a point in your investigation, the more acceptable it becomes. So it's like confirming the same thing that you have identified in the disk, maybe. So yeah, that's something we doing now, just now. Where meanwhile this box is loading, let's just go on to metadata and why metadata is important. So what is metadata? Metadata is information about information, or data about data, or describing the data itself. So if I were to take a picture in my phone, the metadata would contain some sort of camera information about that picture, right? So every picture in my phone probably contains the camera information, the shutter speed, and things like that. So images can offer us EXIF, and documents can offer us the author, editor, last editor, and all such information. So let's get hands on with that too. I have a couple of examples to show you in terms of EXIF information. So here I choose a file. We just say I'm not a robot, and you can see the EXIF here. It was shot with Nikon. The model name is Coolpix P1. Software is GIMP 245. It was edited using that software. There is the modified date, and you have a lot of other interesting pieces of information that you can possibly use. And sometimes, if you're lucky enough, you might get the GPS coordinates on where this picture was shot in certain cameras, because some cameras have GPS enabled, so they sort of add the location to the picture as well. So that can also say where the picture was shot. So that is kind of cool. And let's go for the next one. Next one. So next one is about yeah, we have a Samsung phone. So you might think that phone users are sort of immune towards this kind of EXIF retrieval. No, you're not. Even the people who use phone can be stripped off of their EXIF information, because even phones have their own cameras, right? So this is a Samsung Tech Win. It is shot with, I don't know, I have not heard of this camera. But then yeah, no matter what device you're using, if it sort of adds EXIF whenever you click a picture, then you can probably trace back. There's a good chance that you can do that. So if the person who we are investigating has a Samsung phone, no, sorry, has a device, Digimax device, then we can probably say this image was shot by that person, because this is how you correlate different things, as we discussed before. So this is just a brief about how EXIF works, and let's move on to the volatility part. Right, awesome. So here we have a small Linux installation, and we have an image. So this is a vmem, which is a virtual memory file, or basically a RAM dump of a virtual machine. Okay, so we also can investigate a real RAM dump. It need not be from a virtual machine at all. It can be a real dump as well. So the first step is to identify the operating system that we are running on the machine. So we'll probably use the exact same command mentioned over here. So it's just volatility-f and predix.vmen, and we say image info. So once we do that, it's going to take some time. It's going to perform a some sort of analysis that we do have no idea about, and tell us what operating system profiles it can possibly use and run. So it's going to take some time, and yeah, let's just go on with the next stuff. Were there any questions so far? Okay, yeah, fair enough. No questions so far. That's cool. Um, so next part, yeah, the bonus section is going to be about image forensics. So yeah, one of the most commonly used applications to identify digital content piracy, especially with images. So whenever someone steals your images, you want to find out if they have done that or not. We'll also see how images can be smuggled and full commonly used hashing techniques. So how do you say that two images are the same or the same? It's not just by looking at them. You rather compare the hashes of those images, right? You take two images, you take the hashes of those images, and then you can tell them if they're the same image or not. So this is how it's done from a digital forensic point of view. Okay, you don't look at, you cannot look at each and every image in the system individually, because there could be tons of images that you're looking for. So it's extremely hard for a person to manually go through each and every image in a file system and see that if they have, sort of stole something from someone. So in order to sort of speed up this process, what we do is we take hashes of the stolen image, and we take hashes of the every image in the entire file system, and we compare them. And if the hashes match, they have a copy of the image, which is basically the stolen image. But this technique can simply be fooled. Why? You can maybe add a small dot, or maybe just change the file format to JPEG to PNG, or PNG to JPEG, or GIF or something else, and then you wouldn't be able to detect the image anymore, because different types of file formats have different hashes. Obviously, that changes the entire data. So we use different techniques apart from traditional hashing. So this is traditional hashing, which we're not going to use. We're going to use something called the byte-wise approximate matching and the perceptual hashing. So these two are really amazing techniques that can help you to sort of detect if a person has smuggled your images, or is trying to steal some sort of digital content, right? There are endless applications to these two techniques, but we are just going to stick to images, as that is the scope for this seminar now, right? So let's just go back. And um, so without before getting to the practical part for the images, I'm going to talk about volatility for a bit. So coming back, we can see that there is a win XPSP2x86. So this is the suggested profile. So we just copy that to our clipboard, and we do the exact same command, but this time we say the profile is this, and we would like to do a process list. So PS list is a volatility model that lists the processes. You can see these are the processes that were running at the time of acquisition. If you would like to look at the tree, process tree, you can just run PS tree. So that will also give you some similar form of information with the offsets of each and every process as well. So that's done, and you can perform a lot of interesting things with it. So there's a model called NetScan. You can just see what's doing. So okay, it doesn't give any form of output. Unfortunately, something not great is going to happen due to the sheer age of the target, as the command scan doesn't support it. Okay, fair enough. There are a lot of other modules that you can sort of play with, and even more interesting, what you can do is you can extract a specific DLL or EXE associated with this process, and pull it out of this RAM dump to analyze whatever is going on. So what the people have done here is that they have extracted a couple of DLLs from this RAM dump, and they have uploaded that to Virus Total. Of course, it's a good platform to check if your file is a virus or not. And this is something that we do in DFIR, which is Digital Forensics and Incident Response, right? And we can see this is a sample that has been affected with the Cridex malware, right? So we can perform a lot of such stuff using volatility. Even you can dump hashes if you want. There are a lot of interesting modules you'll be able to use when you play with volatility, right? So that's going to be the end of RAM forensics for now. And let's just move on to the image forensic part that I was talking about, right? Image forensics. So let's just talk about byte-wise approximate matching first, and then let's go to perceptual hashing. So what exactly is byte-wise approximate matching? So let's take a sample. Let's take these two images, right? No, not this one. Let me create a new input. Open file. Should have this. Okay, so these are basically similar pictures, but they have different hashes. You can see the hashes are different, so they won't be detected, even though they are almost the same picture. Here, there's a spectacle, and here you don't have a spectacle, right? So that's the only difference. So the traditional hashing mechanism basically fails us in this scenario because it's not able to detect what is going on with these images at a byte level. So in order to understand what is going on at a byte level, you need to use something called the byte-wise approximate hashing, which is so one of the implementations of the byte-wise approximate matching technique is that SSD. So you choose a couple of files. You choose these files here. We click on open. So you can see the first part of both the hashes are similar. So that means the file could possibly be the same. So this is what SSDeep is capable of. Even though the image formats are little different from each other and their sizes are different, you are still able to see that you know they have a similar starting point over here and here as well. So this is the kind of information that we are looking forward to in digital forensics, because you don't there are a lot of ways that criminals can smuggle images, and you cannot use the traditional hashing techniques to find all of them. So byte-wise approximate matching or SSDeep is a very good way to get started. And there are a lot of other algorithms too, but SSDeep is something that I personally prefer. So here we go. And the next one is going to be p hash or perceptual hash. So what exactly is p hash? So you can see two images here. Of course, there's Will Smith slapping Chris Rock at the Oscar, and the same image with the black and white filter as if it happened in the 90s. So of course, these two images have different hashes, right? If you want to find out if this image has been stolen by someone or smuggled by someone, how exactly do we find that? We use p hash. We choose filter is never mind. Click on so it's going to take its time and give us the perceptual hash of both of these images. You can see PS has determined your images are similar with a Hamming distance of 346, threshold set to 400. So Hamming distance is some sort of variance that it calculates between two images. So how much variance is there between this image and that image, the variance of the difference. So you can see there is no difference. They're basically the same images, but you have a filter on top of it. So this applies for even any form of Instagram filter or Snapchat filter or whatever you use, and it can pretty much find out anything there. So similar with the Hamming distance of 346 and threshold set to 400. So this is almost the same image, which is pretty awesome. So p hash is capable of detecting such interesting things, but the same thing cannot be detected by SSD. I can just show you that too. Give me a second. There we go. And you can see that the hashes are completely different. So you can't detect these kind of stuff with SSD. So you need to use p hash to find something similar to the scenario, right? So that's the bonus section done. And moving on, careers and research. Of course, we're all here for the jobs, right? So in terms of careers and research, you'll be expected to have some sort of certification in terms of digital forensics. You can take the autopsy course available at Udemy or somewhere. There are a lot of YouTube content on autopsy as well, like maybe 10 hours content on autopsy. Just go through them and try playing a lot of CTFs. That should give you a idea about how digital forensics work. And 47 of people working in IR or incident response do both malware analysis and digital forensic investigations. So a lot of companies don't want to spend money on two different subjects separately, except for the 9% of companies. So you might be working with malware analysis tools and malware analysts themselves when you perform digital forensic investigations too. So maybe go and explore malware analysis for yourself sometime, but it's not really necessary to like sort of completely understand it. So if you're working for an depends on where you work. If you work for a digital um services firm, then you would most likely be expected to know malware analysis as well. But if you're working for police or something, then you don't need to know malware analysis. Rather, you'd be interested in the disk forensics and memory forensics part, as that's going to play a key role in convicting someone. So these are the set of roles that you can take up when you learn digital forensics, which is forensic investigator, There's a digital forensic examiner. You have a computer forensic analyst, computer forensic examiner, forensic analyst, incident response analyst. So DFIR, digital forensics and incident response, is what we're talking about here. So these are the career choices you can take if you want to be a digital forensics professional. And the research areas include cloud-based forensics and automation. So there's a huge buzz going on about cloud computing right now for several reasons, because a lot of people do not have the capability to sort of get their own hardware to do stuff, or if they have a very specific hardware requirement that they don't want to buy, or have it for a temporary basis, they can go for cloud. So cloud is something that we'll be moving towards to in the future. So cloud-based forensic investigation is something that we'll be interested in doing as well. So you can just upload evidence to the cloud and it does the investigation part for you and gives you the results. So that would be awesome. That's something you might want to research upon, and automating these processes also something that you might want to take a look at. These are sort of the research areas on digital forensics. So thanks for showing up. This is the end of the session, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Yeah, thanks, Abhishek. The session was really great, and we did like that practical part. And guys,
Mhm.
please do ask your questions and doubts in this session. Whatever you have, please do ask.
Yep, you can just type it in chat. How do you know if your computer is undergoing a keylogger? Okay, that's a good question. So keylogger is depends on a lot of scenarios, right? So if you want to understand if your computer is using a keylogger, then the first thing you might want to do is to take extract all the running processes and get an offline copy of them. So basically you run volatility to get each and every individual process, and you upload all these processes onto VirusTotal. And if it's a keylogger, VirusTotal is most likely going to detect that it is a keylogger. So you need to depend on some sort of tool to tell if a process is malicious or not, and that will be done only when you get a copy of them from a tool like Volatility. So Volatility has a feature of individually extracting each and every process and DLL, and you can do that and see if the files are malicious. So that's the sort of approach you need to take, the divide and rule approach.
Yeah,
How to
Abhishek,
learn?
like in the starting, someone has asked like how to become a digital forensic examiner. Like, can you please go about regarding the certification or something like that?
Oh yeah, sure. That would be something I can do now. Give me a second. So so personally, I would say digital forensics certification roadmap. Mm, okay, there isn't much over here. So let's just take a look at the different forensic certifications that we have in the market. Um, so I prefer to start with ECDFP. I would probably do that if I were to be a digital forensic professional. So Elan Security is a cybersecurity certification company, and they are super good at all their certs. They have quality content and so on. So you can probably try and learn about this certification. So you need to have some form of certification to prove your experience in the field, right? You cannot just go and ask for a job.
Yeah,
So
but I'm saying it is believed that in India, like the recruiters know they know EC Council they are more than Elan Security. So it would be great that if you could suggest anything from EC Council or
yeah.
which one would you prefer for a beginner, for a fresher who is just out of
Oh yeah.
college?
That's true. I would agree to that because you can see a lot of people asking for a CEH certification and so on from EC Council. So CHFI is a forensic certification from EC Council. Again,
Yeah.
you can probably get trained from EC Council for this test and prepare for that, and it's going to be nice. ECDFP is also pretty good. So it just depends on which company you're applying to and what the requirements are. So most
Yeah.
likely it's going to be one of these two certifications. And SANS is something you need to sell your kidneys to get certified. So we will be going that side. So no, and okay. So that I hope that answers your question, Manibharat. Yeah. So the next question, let's go on to the next question. Um, how to learn all about full of forensics? I mean, you can just go onto the internet and search for content. You have a lot of blogs, YouTube videos, and free courses available to learn forensics. So it's just the question of just searching the internet and going through the tons of information you have there, and that should be sufficient.
Yeah, I think
And
TriHackMe should be a great place to start with, right?
yeah, try hack me is awesome. Try hack me is pretty good, and you can try this site called rootme.org, which is again a really good site. It's where I started my cybersecurity career. You can
Okay.
have the English version too. So probably go and check out this website. They have a lot of labs on different sides of cybersecurity, including digital forensics.
Wow, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So moving on to the next question. Um, how to become and how to work with real-time cases. Yeah, as I said, you will have to get a certification or get a job first in order to work with real-time cases. So no one's going to hand over a case to you on a freelance basis. Most for the most part, everyone is going to be associated with the company. So I would suggest you to get a job, right? So is there a way to attack a computer with a system software? Okay, that's something that goes to the malware analysis side of things. It's not really a digital forensics has not a lot to do with that, but yes, there are different ways that you can use a computer. You can use a system software to attack a computer. For example, you can sort of merge a malware process onto a legitimate system process and make it look like there's nothing happening, and that's something you want to avoid. So from a forensic point of view, it will be really hard to investigate if a normal system service is being tampered, right? So that I hope that answers your question. Sure, I had sent you Discord. Okay, yeah, sure. For becoming a forensic examiner, need any license apart from cert? That's something that depends on the geography of your place. For here in Scotland, at least, yes, you need to get a license. In Pody, Scotland, you need a license to sort of say that you are certified to perform investigations and you can just play with data. So it depends on the laws of the place you are in. Is there any special operating system which clears all digital forensics and shutdown? Yeah, you have Tails. If you don't know about Tails, let me just share the link for that in the chat. Tails is something that you can use to do all your interesting stuff and leave no clue behind. How to learn the premium rooms of TryHackMe. So you need a subscription for the premium rooms of TryHackMe, and you can use the walkthroughs for such purposes. Which is the best software to protect your PC? So that's a wide question. I would suggest you need any form of antivirus solution. Just make sure to turn on Windows Defender all the time and don't click on random links. That's more than enough for now. But if you still prefer an antivirus solution, I would say go for ESET Note 32 or Kaspersky or something. So that should be good. Any more questions? Scope of digital forensic in abroad for freshers. Uh, well, that depends though. There is a lot of scope for anything you want to do. It just depends on how passionate you are and how much skill you're having in your hands. So the more skills you have and the more you can talk about, then most likely you can get a job. So it depends on that. So I hope that answers your question. So keep skilling up, and you should be able to find a job at some point in time. It's not like there is an easy way to do something. Even if you take a SOC analyst, it's not straightforward. You need to put your own efforts and understand different things to become a SOC analyst, even though it's a very common job role in cybersecurity. Is there a way for hacker to hack your PC by making you click a link? No, not really. Unless you do download something from that link and perform some interesting stuff, as in just download a software from that link and click on it. I don't think there is a way, unless the application itself is compromised or there's a new zero day. So, how dangerous RAM dumps can be? Dangerous. That there's nothing dangerous with RAM dumps. It's just to do with the fact that whenever they dump your RAM, it means that anything that's in your memory will be in the hands of the person who dumped the RAM. So even if you're probably using Photoshop or watching a movie, so that information will be given to the person who dumped the RAM. So that's the kind of thing. You just basically reveal whatever the person was doing at that point in time. And what is Tails.org? So Tails is an operating system that can allow you to perform all sorts of anonymous stuff. Anonymous as in you can do whatever you want and you won't have any digital footprint or information. So that means you do everything without a trace, basically. So that's why you use Tails, right? How to dump mobile RAM and how to make image. No, I have not explored myself. Explored in the mobile forensic part. I don't have a lot of idea about the mobile forensic side of things. So you can probably Google about it. Are basic technology certifications worth it? Yeah, that depends on the type of job you go for. So for example, if you just want to prove that you are good at computers, you can take the CompTIA A+. So there are a lot of certifications to prove that you're competent in basics of IT or stuff like that. So yeah, it just depends on the type of job you are trying to go for. Is it possible to remotely control a computer without the permission of the other end? Again, this is a very broad question. We have too many use cases where that can happen, and it's probably out of scope for digital forensics. So yes and no, I guess. Tails.org is sort of a browser. No, Tails.org is like an operating system. Tor is a browser. Tor is different. Tails is different. Tails is an operating system. Search for digital forensic examiners. For India, CHFI is enough. I think so. That could also depend. For an entry level job, I think CHFI should be more than enough. I haven't spoken to anyone who was working as a digital forensics person in India, so I don't know much. But here it's different in the UK. It just depends on which country you are.
Yeah, guys, I think Abhishek has almost answered every question, and if still you have some more questions, you can still connect with him privately, and he would be ready to help with you anytime. Right, Abhishek?
Yep, sure.
Yeah, and I think that ends this session. And thank you all for connecting with this session. And we have a special thanks for you, Mr. Abhishek. Thank you for sharing your knowledge regarding digital forensics. And please do stay tuned with the Cyberonics Instagram page until we come up with another interesting event. And we would be back with a good topic and a good speaker in the cybersecurity arena. And Arvind, I think can we end this call?
Mhm. No problem. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.